Good day, friends. This is William with Believe Unlimited. Today I wanted to talk to you and address losing someone or the hardship or breakup of a relationship. And it's really about our perspective of it. And I do remember an experience of mine, and I'll just tell you a little story about the hardest words I've heard in an experience years ago. And what I experienced was traumatic to me at the time. And I've realized the blessings in it, and I've realized a lot of perspective on it, and had some help from some qualified people that have helped me to understand it and see it in a different light. Even though the experience is the same, it's a different experience for me now than it was in that moment. And it was during breakup of a relationship and a disagreement. We weren't getting along, and it was so hard, and it was just tension, and it was borderlining a high volume discussion. There was some heated words, and I had an intention to stop the heatedness and bring it back down so that we could have a conversation. And in hindsight, I maybe chose the wrong time to do this, but what I wanted to do was to soften the heatedness and to mellow it out. And I said to my wife at the time, and I looked at her and I said, listen, stop. Took a deep breath and said, I don't like what's going on. I'm not happy with the situation, but I just want you to know that every time I'm near you, I fall all over in love with you. Now, expecting a de-escalation and a heartfelt response from her so that we could continue a conversation without the heatedness, that's where my intention, where I thought that was going. My response wasn't that. The ultimate response in that moment was she quickly snapped back at me and laughed and said, "Ha! Well, it sucks to be you, doesn't it?" And in that moment, and many times since, yes, it has. It sucked to be me at times, because I still had that feeling. And it hurt, and it agonized me for so long. It truly was a devastating experience in my experience. And it truly wasn't until years later of a lot of reading books, a lot of courses, a lot of talking to situations, talking it through. And I was listening to a book, an audio book, and the answer just came so clear. And the example they used was, if you were walking down the street and somebody walked up to you and stopped you, a complete stranger, and looked at you intently and said, I don't love you and I don't want to see you anymore, and turned around and walked away. Now, it would be strange to have that experience, but it wouldn't be followed with that devastation in your heart, devastation in your life, because my attachment to that person that said that walking down the street was not at the same level as my attachment to my previous experience with my wife. It wasn't necessarily what was said to me, but it was my attachment to her that caused the pain. So when we feel pain, it's only that differential. And I know I've said it before. It's your desired result and your perceived truth of where you're at. And I say perceived because it's actually only how we view the situation is where we're at, is our perceived reality, our perceived understanding. And if that gap is this far away, we're going to feel some uncomfortable. If it's this far away, we're going to feel anguish. If it's this far away, we're going to feel complete devastation. And what I felt in that moment was so far from my goal and my perceived my desire of where we were to my perceived reality, which was it didn't even have a framework. It was devastating. It was paralyzing. It wiped me out. So my learning and growing and the blessings of all of the experience of having that experience has helped me so much to be able to understand that when I have an experience that initially triggers an unpleasant experience, unpleasant feelings, I can determine what I'm feeling about this the situation on what I'm my perceived truth, and then ask myself, what is it I do want, and why do I want this, and is there another path? Is there a shift that I can choose in that situation? And what I've found is taking these steps and working through, I now have had the experience of recognizing things aren't necessarily where I want to be. This is where I want to be. And that gap, I'm able to close and not feel the feelings, but release those feelings quicker, much quicker than I had been able to before. So it's about becoming consciously aware and aware of what we are desiring and how far we are from it by the experience and the hurt and the discomfort that we're feeling, and then asking key questions on helping us to bridge that gap so that we can release the pain that we were feeling in that moment. And that's truly been an understanding, a realization that has so much excited me. And that's why I want to share it with you, is to help maybe one person, maybe dozens, to understand that that pain that we feel is only a measuring stick for how far we are to our desired results from our perceived truth of where we're at. And that it's not a curse, it's not a stab, it's not hurting us. It's only an experience that allows us to understand how far we are from our true desires. And that gives us perspective. And once we know where we are, we can plot a course on how to get to where we want to be. Because if we're lost, we don't even know where we are. We could ask everyone on the planet to help us get to where we want to get to, and their directions would mean nothing because we don't know where we are. And asking ourselves why we want what we want, and what it is that we don't want, or where we're not happy, that gap, we can close that gap. And it becomes simpler over time as we exercise that understanding. And I hope that you feel close to your desires, on the path, because that is where passion is fueled. And that's where we feel excited and moving forward with our lives, is to understand that where we're at is on the path to our desires, even if it doesn't look like it. So make good choices. And remember, you stay awesome. We'll catch you next time.